Hello everyone, I'm Fred
And I'm Linda.
with New Venture, New Day, and this is day one of our Western Tour adventure. We're headed out west to see some of the sights we've seen before and see some new sights. We're leaving now that winter has ended, the weather is warmer, but we want to get there before the big tourist season starts, before the crowds arrive. And today, our destination is Kearney, Nebraska. And what are we going to see there?
We are going to see the Great Platte River Road Archway Monument and Museum.
Museum there is a place we have driven by many times on our way out to Colorado to visit the Rockies, and have always been fascinated by it. And today we're going to stop and see what it's all about. So come along with us and discover the museum at Kearney, Nebraska. We are on our way down the driveway, headed to Kearney, Nebraska. It was a beautiful morning, a little humid. It's starting to rain just a little bit. That was in the forecast. We'll probably experience a little bit of rain on the way. We are cruising through the hills on Highway 23. It's a beautiful drive, very hilly, very curvy, typical of south central Wisconsin. We're about to go by the entrance to another famous site in this area, the House on the Rock. It was built many years ago. It extends out over a rock ledge with a beautiful view, interesting architecture, plus there's a gigantic museum there where you can see all kinds of artifacts that have been collected over the years. So if you ever get a chance in this area, take a stop at the House on the Rock. As we cross the Wisconsin River, we are closing in on a notable Frank Lloyd Wright place. There is the restaurant visitor center that's associated with what's known as Taliesin, where Frank Lloyd Wright built a home and built a school for architecture. We visited there and it's fascinating. And while I know that this video is about our travels in the West, if you are in Wisconsin, there's a lot of beautiful scenery and a lot of interesting sights, like the Taliesin site here just south of Spring Green along the Wisconsin River on Highway 23. We are now crossing the Mississippi River into Iowa. We have left Wisconsin behind. And of course, there is construction on the bridge as it is summer. There are only two seasons here in Wisconsin, winter and construction. And here is the sign that says, "Welcome to Iowa." We're now entering Dubuque. Quite a bit to see in Dubuque too if you want to stick around a little bit. There's a casino here if that's what you're interested in. Boat rides up and down the Mississippi. A couple of museums. Rolling along I-80, closing in on the Iowa-Nebraska border. This is typical of the scenery traveling on I-80. Lots of windmills, lots of truck traffic. It's kind of rough today. It's a little bit windy and it's flat in a lot of spots. Not the most scenic drive, but more scenic than it will be in Nebraska. We are past Des Moines, Iowa, sitting at a rest stop on our way to Council Bluffs, Iowa, Omaha, Nebraska, and it is windy. A lot of wind turbines out here, and they are spinning today. They just about carry you away when you get out of the vehicle, having lunch like we often do. Very light lunch. And I guess the point to make on traveling through here on I-80 and through Iowa is there are not a lot of rest stops. So when you find a rest stop, you take advantage of it. Another thing is, if you want a gas station, the majority of the gas stations are Quick Star and Casey's. So be prepared for that. If you're normally a BP user or a Shell or one of those, most of the time you're going to find a Casey's or a Quick Start. It's a beautiful day,
We made a stop last night in Cedar Rapids, Iowa to see someone we know, stayed overnight there and left early this morning, and we expect to arrive in Kearney somewhere around, well, maybe 2 o'clock this afternoon and take a look at the museum.
Welcome to Nebraska, home of Arbor Day. We are in Nebraska and Omaha. There's the train that sits on the top of the hill as you come in. Took a quick break, about a half an hour out of Kearney, Nebraska. And we are on what is apparently called, I didn't realize this, the Great Platte River Road. Cattle country and a lot of grain fields. And the Mormon Trail. It's back in the vehicle, and our next stop will be Kearney. There it is, the Archway Monument. Many times we've driven on the stretch of I-80 on the left and driven underneath this, and today we are going to stop and see it. We've arrived on an extremely windy day. Not very many people here. It's about 3 o'clock. We've got 2 hours to tour the museum. And as the sign says, adventure awaits. We're welcomed by a huge buffalo. The sign talks about the history of this place. We're about to head inside. There's an area here of grounds to walk around. We might catch that later on today. It'll be late. It was time to get out of the wind and see what they had in store for us in the museum. Impressive entryway with a nice plaque talking about the museum. And the lobby looked very good. Some initial things to look at for display, and the escalator leading up to the first level of the museum. Talked to a very nice person there that was welcoming and explaining the museum to us. Go to the gift shop where you can purchase your ticket to take a walk through the museum, and they do have a discounted senior rate there. You can look it up on the link to their website down below in the description, and take the escalator up past the initial part of the display, listening to the audio device explaining to you what you're looking at as you go up the escalator. And then each station along the way, you can just tap the number and listen to the story behind the scenes you're looking at, like this one here of Fort Kearney. In a thunderstorm, soldiers talking to settlers. There's a little representation of Fort Kearney. You can look in the windows there and some of the things they have on display. And a good look at the difficulties people had going across the prairie and the mountain and canyon areas to get where they were headed out west, oftentimes with oxen pulling a wagon. Very tough going. Could only take just a limited amount of things with you. Little story about the buffalo that, of course, we know the story of how they just about got wiped out, but they're now slowly recovering in the west. You see them in some spots. River crossings, very difficult to make. Signature rocks, there are 3 different locations I know of. We stopped at one of those later on in our trip to look at where pioneers had scratched their names in, and there were disasters along the way. And wagons broke down, things were lost, sometimes people died before they got to their destination, were left in the desert, buried there, and finally a lot of them made it to the west over that period of time before the railroads went into effect. And stories about the Native Americans and the pioneers that settled there and the changes that were brought forth by the European settlers coming and starting farms and villages and cities in the western plains areas and further west into Utah, Oregon. Mountain men, the gold rush of the 1840s in California, the people that followed the trail to get to that. Military involvement, the different pioneers and government people. Lots of displays of the kinds of stores and places people would visit along the way, stagecoach lines, the railroad in particular, the Iron Road. You can take a stairway up to the second level of the museum that deals a lot with changes in transportation over time, starting with the railroad, the Union Pacific, the story of the joining of the two railroads in 1869, and then now the modern highway era, how that started, roads being put into place. You could reach places in the West by auto. Some of the advertising and promotions that were in place during the time, the development of auto travel. There's an old Cadillac convertible there. I had my picture taken by that. Roadside cafe that we'll be looking at. Video ongoing of all the different changes in transportation. Nice mural there of a town, typical town in the West. A nice big representation of the different trails and where they split off and where they went. Let's take a walk into the Roadside Cafe and see what they have done inside of that. This is the last stop on the journey through the museum. In typical old-fashioned diner, and there is a display where you can tap and listen to what the waitress has to say to you. And the windows looking out over I-80. Very interesting display there. You can see the truck traffic coming and going underneath. And another display here, and there's a radar unit, and you can take a look on the radar unit to see how fast the traffic's going underneath the overpass here, the Archway Museum. And when it's time to leave, there is an escalator you can take, and there is an elevator available also if you need it. Take the escalator down to a first landing, and on that first landing you have a nice overlook of the lobby. And you can see the escalator going up to the first floor of the museum. Take the second escalator down to the entrance level of the museum. Take your sound device off. There's a box at the bottom of the escalator where you can drop off your sound device when you're done with it. And there are more displays down in the lower level. This is some of the display you see when you do come into the lobby. There is a cafeteria area there for special events, which they do have in the area to talk about various things. I have to admit, when we first saw that Archway Museum, driving under it a few years ago, and even pulling up to it, I wasn't sure what I was going to see when I went in there, because sometimes those places are just touristy, commercial kind of places.
Very true.
And after going through it, I was completely impressed. That was in the same category as a lot of the other surprising and very nice museums we saw when we were out west, and we've seen in other places that we've reported on.
Definitely.
What did you think of the whole thing?
Well, I was just very overwhelmed, and it was just, yes, so much information, and the way they showed it and that sort of thing, it was displayed it was wonderful, yes.
And it didn't dawn on me at the time, and I'm trying to take videos, and I'm going through, and I didn't read everything as closely as I could have. Mm-hmm. As we were taking our trip and getting to some of those places down the road, it occurred to me, I should have paid a lot more attention when I was in that museum, because just from the videos we have and remembering some different things, there was a lot of description given of the places we would be encountering on our trip.
It kind of pulled it all together. So what have we decided?
We have decided on our next trip out, because we're going to keep following the trail, we're going to follow the Oregon Trail, we're going to follow the trail to California, We've already followed the trail basically to Salt Lake City, the Mormon Trail.
Yep.
And the first stop we're going to make is
Kearney.
Kearney. And we're going to take another close look and really spend some time going through that museum because there's a lot of good groundwork information available there.
Definitely.
And when you get to these actual places it's talking about, wow, it really hits home.
Very true. But there was one thing that we did learn, one big thing. We now know how to pronounce Kearney,
That's
Nebraska.
right. It's Kearney, not Kearney.
So we apologize.
We
for
apologize for that. Apologize to all the people in Kearney, Nebraska.
Yes.
If you enjoyed watching this first segment of our Westward Ho adventure, well, please click like and consider subscribing to our channel so that you see the rest of these videos when they come out, and there will be a lot of videos because we stopped at a lot of great places and there's going to be a lot of great information. So please subscribe and watch for the next one to come out. We hope you enjoyed this one. And until next time, enjoy your travels and take care.